social media? Has it got to a stage with any of the Blades players or staff where it's become almost unmanageable? We kind of bracket abuse and in some respects dismiss it at the same time as it being that's football, but it's
in football. It isn't
no,
football.
It isn't.
No, in life, nobody should be allowed to get away with it. This thing's going on at the moment at this football club that I can't really open up on, but players and the like have received this, and it's just not right. It isn't, and it's not acceptable. And it's not acceptable, and I think that the media companies are getting away with it, absolutely getting away with it and making money at the same time, and it's not acceptable. I think players have got a responsibility, of course, a big responsibility. There is part of this, the social media world that is very, advantageous to everybody, and bringing people together, whatever platform it is. Some really good bits of it, but there's some disgusting bits of it that are not acceptable, completely not acceptable, and we've all suffered. We're in the spotlight, we're in the public spotlight, and we all receive it, and it's not completely not acceptable. We receive it, our families receive it, and it's not on, and something has to be done about it. And for me as well, knowing a little bit about this as well, without going too deep into it, Andy, the police have to deal with these situations, and well, as I said, from my own personal opinion, should they not have to deal with this, and they have to deal with even though this is a big situation and it's disgusting and it's not acceptable, surely the police and the police force and our police force in this county have enough on their plate with having to deal with this, and going out to see people and talk to people and having to go through the process of dealing with this, when I'm sure that they would like to be doing a lot of other things that keep our city, that keep our area safe, and doing the right things from that point of view. No?
Definitely. 100%.
They don't go into the police force. Surely these people, these people that, the women, the men and women that join the police force, they don't want to go into the police force just to spend 90% of their time dealing with social media. Surely not.
So to that end, then, it's the companies, isn't it?
100%. 100%. There's got to be a way around it. You've got to give something up. You've got to give up, your passport details up, or you've got to be allowed to be going on this. What are people scared of then? If I want to go on social media and I have to give my passport details up, I'm saying to social media, well, I'm going to participate in this on these platforms, but I run the risk of things happening. That if I break rules and regulations and be offensive and abusive and step over the line. So police don't want to having to do this. I'm sure that I know people that are in the police force, and I think they're worn down by it and tired by it, and would rather be doing a lot more things that are beneficial to our fabulous city that we live in than having to go and visit people and do other bits and pieces to tidy the mess up that's been made and created. And as I said, a lot of positive things regarding social media, but I think the social media companies have certainly got to take a huge amount of responsibility, if not all the responsibility, of what's happening.
Just finally on this then, do you get the sense that because of, the latest high-profile incident and many others, no doubt, that go unchecked, that football as an industry in itself has finally got to the point where it's starting to hit back, I suppose, for want of a better way of describing it?
Yeah, it's got to. What do we do? As I said, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Andy. These are just high-profile cases. you know, take away footballers, and I'm sure there's other bits and pieces that happen, you know, from the younger generation to younger generation right the way through. And everybody has to hit back, and certainly football has an opportunity of doing that, and it has to. But it'll happen in all walks of life, and it's unacceptable. Obviously, it is high profile because of the nature of the football and the business, and then it goes even more high profile with the likes of what's happened to Mike Dean and what's happened to, you know, the two boys at Manchester United from a racial point of view, and other situations. But I'm sure that this is just the tip of the iceberg, really, and I just think it's completely unacceptable that these things are allowed to continue, allowed to happen.
It's a huge topic, but if I may go on a quite the sideways shift now, has anything developed in the sense of team news and what have you? You were expecting Moussa to return to training this week?
Yeah, he has done. Ender's trained today, which is good. Good news for us. Lisa's trained today, which is good news for us as well. So we're hopeful that they're both involved on Wednesday night.
All right, that's a big plus, isn't it?
Yeah, good bit of good news, yeah.
And after a period of time where are you with Moussa starting to get to the bottom of his injury problems to the point where he might be a consistent player involved in the squad?
There's two parts of that, Andy, if I'm being honest. You know, our point of view in terms of getting to the bottom of his few issues, and really there has to be a big push via the player now to participate, to add something that we know he has got, for him to bring those qualities to the table. So, you know, he understands our feelings on him, and I'm not chucking him under the bus, but, you know, there's certain things that he can control and he makes choices on. Obviously, there's been a couple of high-profile bits and pieces recently as well that I am and he is disappointed about. But he has to make a contribution as well for a second part of the season, and I need everybody to make contributions. So Lisa's in the same, a responsibility to get us out of the situation that we're in, and I think everybody knows that. But, you know, I want it to happen, but he's got to make it happen as well, and want it to happen as well. And fingers crossed he can do, getting over these little bits and pieces that he's got that have hampered him. That it's been difficult for him, but there's other bits that he can do better, which he understands from my point of view.
Speaking of contributions and increased ones, Keane Bryan certainly had one over recent weeks, and really developed, hasn't he? How do you assess that period of time in 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
It's just been, as I've said before, the players that have not been playing any football, it's really difficult because obviously from the situation in the 23s and coming out of our bubble and going into their bubble and not being able to then come back into our bubble. So just to answer that question regarding the 23s, and, you know, one or two of those players playing games in there is sometimes not at all beneficial for them. But then players trying to get game time as well. Obviously behind closed doors games of we can't arrange those. From Keane's individual point of view, you know, it's he's been a little bit frustrated with injuries that he's had. You know, he had an injury after the West Brom game, and but he's a talented boy, and you know, obviously as we talked about after the game against Chelsea, you know, he knows, and we all know that if you make a slight mistake, which he did, unfortunately, it usually ends up in the back of the net, which it did. Even though looking back at it now, I know Graham Souness said something about it on Sunday, and, you know, I didn't really have an opportunity and an ability to really look at that in depth. I think that, yeah, again, the smartness and the cuteness of these players in the Premier League really make that decision for the referee. And I didn't think it was as straightforward as maybe what it looked at the time from where I saw it. But as far as Keane's concerned, you know, he's got a part to play in with the rest of the season. Obviously, from Jack's situation that we keep talking about is that, you know, that is a really complex situation from him. So Keane can play that position. Obviously, Ethan's played it before Keane, and Keane Keane's got a part to play for us, and hopefully he can build on some encouraging performances so far from the turn of the year.
He was a player that obviously, because there were players ahead of him in the pecking order. But is he done enough? And I dare say it's probably too early to ask this question, whether he's worth another look for next season, whatever happens.
Well, of course, there'll be opportunities in training and opportunities in games for Keane. So I've not really looked regarding next season. There's still a long way to go in this season, and sort of plans and whatever for what happens, as you can imagine. Full focus has been on the group of players, and Keane's part of it. But he'll have opportunities, and as always, it's up to him to grab them and force the issue. But he's a good character. It's been difficult for him. He came to us, as I said, from Manchester City and been in their setup and system, and it's not been straightforward for him. But he's with us between now and the end of the season, and he has that opportunity, as I said, to force the issue. And there's no downside in doing well, whether it's here from a contract extension point of view, or somewhere else. And he has to have that in his head every time he steps out onto the pitch.
Just finally, how would you sum up the importance of this season's FA Cup? Because the consistent levels of performance have gone along in the Premier League this year, but in the Cup at least you got the first win, and it's kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah, I think you have to take every situation on its merits and where you are, and it was important that we played a strong side in the game against Bristol Rovers, and back that up with the Plymouth game. I want to win games of football, no matter what. I think everybody recognises that we don't get to this position in our careers without accepting defeat lightly. So, but there has been prioritised games in my time here, as you can imagine, and obviously we've backed that up with the success that we've had. But when we get deep into a competition, which we are getting into now, then there's an opportunity of achieving something. Then we will do that, and that has always been the case in the FA Cup for me at Sheffield United. But the two games definitely took on more importance this season than maybe they have done in the past, and I think that's I think people will understand that.